Hello and welcome to Victoriana. We're a few days into the beginning of March and it really is all systems go. We've just taken our first batch of tomatoes off the heat, so they're now sitting in the cool. They're actually in the cool part of a heated greenhouse, so they're still getting some heat, but they're not getting heat from below. That'll hold them back a little bit. And yeah, we have got an awful lot under production now, here, there and everywhere. And it is a madly busy time for us, so I will give you a run around the nursery. So here in the prop, we've actually got some space for a change. We've just literally moved out the first batches of tomatoes and also some of the chilies, so they're just now on the normal greenhouse benches, so they're getting heat but no basal heat. And so now we have some big gaps. That means that we can actually get on with some sowing again, and I think in 2 or 3 days this will all be full back up again. This week we'll be sowing quite a few more perennials. So here in the bubble, as I said, we've literally just moved the first batch of tomatoes onto the open bench. So these have been on heat and now they're on the open bench in here, which we're heating to 8.5 Celsius now. And yeah, really in the bubble at this time of year, it's that sort of time where we are moving things from one place to the other and they don't stay here for long. So this time last week this had perennials on it and some veg. They've now moved onto cold glass. And then from there they'll spend a couple of weeks in the cold glass and then end up outside. So we spend an awful lot of our time moving things around, but for us it's important that we actually sell a truly hardened plant, if that's what it is that we're actually selling. So obviously we don't do that with tomatoes, but bits and pieces that we say are hardened off, we make sure that they do actually end up outside before you receive them. So yeah, we spend a lot of time moving stuff around at this time of year. But no, over there also another thing we're doing at the moment is we're actually dividing our prop completely off so that we can keep the ambient temperature in there a little bit warmer. We always suffer through the winter months because we run this house at about 6 Celsius through the deepest part of the winter, and obviously the ambient temperature in the prop would like to be a little bit higher. So this year we've decided to divide it right off and probably put some background heating in there as well, supplementary to the actual house heating. But no, so quite a lot going on in here, and obviously it would just continue to move round and round. So here in the top house we are absolutely chocker. A lot of this has moved up from the bubble, so it's had heated space for some time and now it's moved into here where it's had a couple of weeks in the cooler unheated cold glass. And this week we will be moving a lump of it out, probably about 50% or so, which would be good because we need the space up here for starting some other things under cold glass, and obviously also for moving other items from the warmth back up into here. But it's one of those processes where we're stuck for space outside because we've literally been moving some bits and pieces outside. So we've waited for the space outside to move the stuff from in here. And it's that sort of struggling cycle of round and round. But hopefully by the end of this week coming, we'll have some space in here and we'll be a little bit more organised outside as well. So this is the first of the veg that's made it outside. These have been outside for a couple of weeks now. We haven't had the room in this cage. This is the cage that we keep all our young brassica plants in, keeps the pigeons away. Yeah, up until the end of last week, this was full up with soft fruit. We also had some overwintering hellebore seedlings and things like that we've moved out. Similarly, we've moved a lot of stuff from the rest of our cell area, our plug plant area. And as I say, now we've actually got the space here. It looks a bit like a car crash because, like I say, it's all been pulled out quite quick this week. But now we've got the space here, we can move stuff from the top house into this space and onwards and upwards really. So here in the veg tunnel, this is obviously where we grow our tomatoes and our chilies and courgettes and bits and pieces like that, and is the focus for our chili festival and our tomato week. But yeah, at the moment we've borrowed the space and we've got it full of potted grafted vines. We've been quite busy potting those up, and I think we're just about there now. So it's not really a veg tunnel at the moment. One thing we do have is a nice crop of the cut and come again collies. These are actually being grown for seed. We mucked up slightly and have completely sold out of seed, so we're actually growing these to let them run to flower and then run on to seed. We've got a batch inside, we've got a batch outside. I guess we might have one or two of the collies as well, but the most important thing is to get our seed production back up on those. But no, so that's about it in the tunnel at the moment. Not a lot of veg, quite a lot of grapes. Out on the beds, we've just about finished containerising all our soft fruit, and we've been gathering it from here and there. Some of it's been in the cell area and other places, and now we're sort of squeezing it in together and getting an alphabet put together and getting ourselves tidy out here. Way over there, we've also just about finished containerising our fruit for the summer. It's nice to see some of that breaking into bud now. But obviously we've only just recently been starting to have some frost and things, but everything is happy, and as I say, we're starting to see a little bit of bud break. Bonus of the late and cold frosts is obviously it's going to keep the bare root season running a little bit longer, so we're thinking we're probably going to be continuing to sell bare root fruit until at least the middle of April, and maybe a little bit later. But yeah, so we're quite tidy out here, and we've also stripped off the other end, so we've stripped off all the shrub beds the other end now. We're going through the shrubs, tidying them up, giving them a little top dress, etc., and tidying the beds as well. So yeah, all in all, it's a busy time out here as well. So here in the flower area, we've given up with an awful lot of the things we planted in the autumn and started turning it over. I've got some plans of what we're going to put in here. I think we might go a bit more perennial on some of the areas and then have some annuals elsewhere to sort of cheer it up and to twist over, but have a little bit more of a perennial theme, I think, on some of the bits here. But yeah, so doesn't look too cheerful at the moment, and obviously we've had quite a lot of rain, so the ground is pretty wet and grotty, but hopefully in the next few weeks we'll be able to get out here and turn it over a bit more and think about some planting. Here on the veg garden, there's not a lot going on really at all. We've had snow this week, we've had frost, we've had hail, we've had all sorts. We're actually just about sort of having our winter, which is a bit bizarre when of course we're meant to be creeping nearer to spring. But we need to get out here and have a good tidy up. The asparagus beds need weeding off before they get a bit crazy. Needs to do a little bit in the soft fruit cage. And we need to think about, you know, final digging over and maybe thinking about preparing for potatoes. But the ground is cold, and despite what magazines and things say, sometimes it's actually better to be a bit later and let nature catch up rather than making nature struggle away and not really get to where it wants to be as quickly. So yeah, we tend to be late on most of what we do, mainly because we're busy on other things, but yeah, also because the seasons have slipped. We seem to get our winter later, and spring seems to be later after that, so we work with the season rather than trying to stick to rules that this has got to be done at such and such a time in the month, because it just hasn't. It's got to be done when it needs to be done. So yeah, veg garden, not much going on, and a little bit to do really. So I'll finish off up here in the top field. This is one of the areas where we usually plant out with fruit trees that we grow on for the summer and then lift in the autumn. Not quite sure if we're going to do that this year. We're thinking about ploughing it over, rotavating it and letting it just go back to grass for a year or two. As I say, we haven't made our mind up. But yeah, we're not going to plant any bare root fruit back yet. As I say, we work with the season rather than trying to stick to such and such time. And I reckon we've got at least a month, maybe even 6 weeks before we need to worry about getting all our bare root fruit back in the ground. And similarly for amateurs, plenty of time for planting fruit this year. It's going to be a late season. And yeah, onto the vineyard. And of course, it's been in a year now. We've pruned back quite heavily in the autumn, and we got great hopes of great things this year. We've got a couple of rows that we're going to put some other vines in. We left some gaps for some new vines, and this year we've introduced some new vines to our listings, and so we need to get some out here as well. But no, that's it for March. We will catch up in April, which no doubt will be doubly crazy as March, and hope that we have good weather ahead.